So this is going to be an animal video, kind of. As you've probably seen by the title, this is going to be about the Disney movie Bolt that came out in 2008. So I brought out a bunch of the dog and cat plushies and stuffed animals that I have, and Toka Tomorrow is here simply because of the fact that there's also a hamster in this movie that rolls around in a ball for a fair amount of the movie. So Toka Tomorrow is a representation of a hamster named Rhino. Don't ask. So this movie, beyond the fact that it is obviously going to be about the Disney movie Bolt, it's also kind of a little bit of I guess a tribute movie to dogs. I mean, like it's like over the years they've had lots of movies about dogs. All Dogs Go to Heaven, of course. That series. There's a whole bunch of other ones. Dalmatians and Lady and the Tramp, of course. That are, of course, dog and cat based movies, mostly dogs on those ones, but there's a couple of cats that pop up in them, sometimes for good or sometimes for bad, can be left up for debate. There's Oliver and Company, of course, that are about dogs and cats, and a lot of those movies are also, to a degree, a little bit about like the dogs and the animals' loyalties to each other, and to a degree also to their humans, because of course Lady just wants to go back home, and Lady and the Tramp, Pongo and Brindle want their puppies back so they can take their puppies back home. Oliver wants to find a home, and he of course finds a home with Penny. No, that's not Penny. Penny is the rescuers. But he finds the home with Jenny. Jenny is that one. The main girl character in this movie is also named Penny, although I highly doubt there's any relation. Unless, well, I guess by an extension you could try to put I guess maybe Bolt's like an extended universe cut of like the Rescuers universe with the Animal Rescue Aid Society. But I don't really know that. I don't know if that's I don't think that's 100% true or not, but could be. But throughout the course of the movie, of course, this is kind of also a tribute to a dog's loyalty to humans, but also a human's loyalty to their pet. Just a little bit of backstory, I guess, in my pet history. Of course, that I have Rainy, who is, of course, my current dog. He's a Samoyed. We got him from our local humane society when he was, we think that he was about 2 years old from what they told us. And we've had him for about 4 or 5 years now at this point in time. So we've had him for a while. And in regards to his loyalty to us, he doesn't come when we call his name. He's affectionate on his own terms. I swear to God, he sleeps more than I've ever seen any dog sleep that was on an old dog. And he acts like a cat, so therefore Rainy is a cat. Rainy is a Samoyed that was raised by cats. Since he's the only Samoyed I've ever interacted with, as far as I can remember, for an extended period of time. Do all Samoyeds act like cats? Please let me know, because I don't know. He does. Rainy does. We'll try to see if I can get him in here at some point in the video, although he'll be annoyed about all of the stuffed animals on the bed. But we'll see. Maybe he'll come in. I left the door open so he can come in if he wishes. Since it is a dog video and an animal video, I figured that was appropriate. So, and just in case he doesn't show up, here are some nice, either cute or funny pictures of Rainy that I've taken over the years since we've had him. Him in my chair, him on the bed, him on a different bed, him after he's, had a haircut. We have stopped kind of cutting his hair this short, simply just because we've gone to a better groomer now, and they're like, no, you shouldn't cut the animal's hair that short for this type of dog, which is fine. And he seems to at least enjoying his, not as, short of cut. And then for the rest of my animal history, through the first 18, 19 years of my life, my sister had a dog, well, kind of two dogs that she'd had previously when she lived with her birth mother, and then came and lived with, my mom and our dad and me when I was little. And she brought one of her dogs with her, whose name was Honey. As far as I'm aware, we don't have any pictures of Honey. He was kind of like a sandy brownish dog. Shaggy hair, not like a big dog, like not a small type dog, but like a medium-sized dog. And he ran away one day and we never saw him again, unfortunately. And then the other one that we had was a dachshund named Babe. Again, my sister's dog. Um, he was very sweet. He was just a black little dachshund. Again, I don't think I could find any pictures of him. Maybe I might have found one. We have a picture of like him and me like curled up on the couch and this other dog that's here, and I'll get to this other dog in a second. But we had Babe for a while. And unfortunately, one night we let him try to get him to come in from the backyard, him and our other dog that we had at the time, not Honey, but a different dog that I'll get to in a second. Tried to let them in from the backyard, and the other dog came in, but Babe never came back in, and we went and we looked all over the place for him. Bear in mind, I was like younger than 9 years old at this point in time. And they went and looked all over the neighborhood for him. We may have put up lost dog signs. We never saw Babe again. We don't know if he escaped from the yard and just ran off, or if someone took him. We don't know. But we still kind of miss Babe. He was my sister's other dog. And then the dog that we had for the longest time was a dog named Bear. If any of you have seen the Benji movies, I don't remember if those are Disney related or not. I don't quite remember, but there are the Benji movies about this dog that the sweet dog named Benji that goes on all these different adventures. They were in the, I don't remember if they're in the late 80s into the early 90s or the 90s for the most part. And then I think they had another Benji movie several years ago. But the other dog that we had, whose name was Bear, looked a lot like Benji. He was a poodle, Pomeranian, and something else mixed. And he was just adorable and sweet. And I miss him so much because we got him when he was a puppy from one of my sister's friends. Her dogs had a litter of puppies. And my sister got to pick one out since it was her friend. She picked out a dog. And it was this, this little sandy colored, fluffy puppy. And we named him Bear. And we had him, if I remember correctly, we got him just before I started kindergarten, or around the time when I started kindergarten. And then all the way up, we had Bear all the way up until after I graduated high school. So we had Bear for a long time. And he was such a sweet dog. And when my parents divorced, he went and lived with my dad. And so we had Bear in our apartment and everything. And, so we did that. And the one thing that I had always wanted to do for Bear, because, he was getting to be an older dog, was that I kind of wanted to be able to have a house with the backyard again, so that way Bear could just go and, roam around in the backyard, lay in the sun, relax. And I mean, we took him on walks 3 times a day, give or take the weather and everything, when we were at the apartment, but it wasn't the same as him being able to have a backyard. And we didn't have a fenced in yard at the apartment for him to be able to run around in. So here are just some, some other cute pictures of Bear. Unfortunately, and you can skip ahead in the video if you entirely want to, if you don't want to hear about the dogs, but I'm going to show cute dog pictures, so that's up to you. But in regards to that, Bear got to be an older dog, obviously, getting to be hard of hearing, harder for him to walk. He'd had hip problems in the past. Where we had to carry him up and down the apartment stairs to take him on the walks and everything. And, he just got to be an old dog, but he was still a very sweet dog and very loving and everything. And unfortunately, when I was at community college for a while, unfortunately he got to the point where he wasn't able to eat. He couldn't really go to the bathroom, and it was just causing so many problems for him, and it was kind of putting him in pain. And I had to be the one to make the decision, because he didn't go with my sister, and he kind of been transferred to being my dog at this point in time. And I had to make the decision, and I did make the decision to put him down because he was in a lot of pain. Or couldn't really do anything, very physically couldn't move very much and everything. Could barely eat, as I said, or didn't eat. And I made the decision to put him down, and that was a very hard decision to make. And I was I don't even know if I was 19 yet at the time. But that was a very hard decision to make for a dog that I'd had the majority of my life. And then it took another let's see, that would have been 2000, end of 2010, going into 2011 that I had to make that decision. And we put Bear down. And then we didn't get Rainy until like 2000. Let's see, this is 2020. Would have been 10. See, 2010, 2020. I think well, it's 2021, excuse me. We didn't get Rainy until a long time later. And, it's still, I still miss Bear. I still miss Babe. I don't really have that many memories of Honey, but, like, I've been around dogs my whole life. I have family members that have dogs. I have, like, an aunt and uncle that had, like, 3 big dogs at one point. They were, like, these big black dogs, but they were so sweet. They were, it's like these big black dogs. It was like, it's like they could attack you very easily, but they were just the sweetest little sweetest things, and just wanted to be petted and loved and everything. And like so many other dogs I've been around over the years, they just want to be petted and loved and given affection and everything, or just left alone, and then they'll come to you when they want to be pets. Cats are kind of the same way. I've been around cats to a degree as well. Throughout my life, my sisters had cats, and they're okay, but they're not. I'm not a cat person, but like I would be okay with having a cat, but it's not something I want anytime soon. So let's get into the movie of Bolt. I spent 12 minutes talking about my history with dogs, but you got to see some cute dog pictures. So there you go. So into the movie. So Bolt came out in 2009. The movie begins with, we see this like pet shop, and there's like all these puppies and everything, and one of them is a white puppy that's a little bit different than the other ones, and it's playing with a squeaky carrot. And then this little girl comes in, and like she picks out the dog, and like she picks the dog and she names him Bolt. And then we cut to like 5 years later, and then we get like this dramatic shift in it and everything. Like this girl's sitting on the phone talking to her dad, and he's like, Penny, the girl's name is Penny for all intents and purposes, because that's just what they call her. This girl, it was like, Penny, you can't go back to the house. Things are dangerous. Keep Bolt with you. And he, like it was like, we get this whole explanation that, Bolt has been genetically modified to like have all of these superpowers and everything. Like he can run fast, like extremely fast. He's like indestructible to a degree. He has like heat vision / laser vision. He's like really strong. And he also has like the ability to do this like super bark, which allows him to like send out like this huge like sound shockwave type thing. And like the dog's been genetically modified, and he has like a bolt mark on the side of him. He's like, he's got a lightning bolt scar. He survived the Avada Kedavra curse on Harry Potter. Oh, my hair jingling. But so we get this, and it's like this, and then we cut to like the girl and the dog like having to go after this, this villain, this Dr. Calico, because it's a joke, as Calico is a type of cat, and he has cats around him all the time, so it's like the cats versus dogs angle. And Penny and Bolt are trying to save her father, who's this scientist and everything. And then they're being this big chase scene, and like the dog and Penny, Bolt and Penny are just like running away and like trying to escape the bad guys and like causing problems and everything. And there's like these huge effect shots and everything. Like there's helicopters chasing them, and like there's motorcycles everywhere, and just like explosions and all this stuff. And like at one point they demonstrate Bolt's strength by like having him like like headbutt a car, and the car flips, and then like Bolt like lifts the car, and he's like holding it over the side of a bridge ready to drop the car because they're trying to interrogate the person inside the car because reasons. And it's just like all this insane stuff, and like it's just like all this other stuff going on. And they're being chased by all these bad guys, and then there's like this climactic moment where they're just about to be like descended upon by all these bad guys, and like Bolt does this huge super bark and like releases it, and does this huge super bark and just like sends it cascading and like causing like destroying all of these planes and helicopters and, you know, Jeeps and Humvees and motorcycles and like all this stuff that have like all the bad guys in it and everything, you know, Dr. Calico's henchmen and everything inside of it, and just like just sending them away, and, you know, just like knocking them all out. And then, you know, they're all, you know, laying on the ground. There's like, you know, dust and, you know, stuff everywhere. And like, you know, Penny and Bolt take like this picture with like a Polaroid camera. And you know, and then she, you know, takes the dog, she just like picks him up and she like carries him off. And then she carries him into like this set trailer type thing, like a trailer that a movie star would be in on a set. And she takes him in that and she puts him down. And then we see like all around them, we see like the backdrop get pulled away. We see like everybody, like all these like crew hands and everything start coming out. And it's revealed that, oh, this is a TV show. It's not real. It's like a TV show or a movie set or something like that. It's not real. You know, Penny's not really in danger. Bolt doesn't really have all these powers. And for those of you that have seen the movie, then you know where this is going. And if you haven't seen the movie, I hadn't watched this movie in at least like 10 years since, you know, whatever the last time was that I've seen it. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there going, I forgot how fun this movie was. You know, I'm sitting there watching it with my dad. I'm like, I did not remember this movie being this much fun. And, you know, Penny and Bolt are inside of the trailer, and she, you know, she pins all of these pictures that she's taken of the two of them, like at the end of probably like every episode or so. She pins up the pictures to show, you know, it's a job well done, Bolt, I'm safe. And then, you know, she tries to calm him down and everything, because Bolt thinks that all of this is real, thinks that he has these powers, thinks that Penny is actually in danger, that Dr. Calico is like this evil, you know, evil person who wants to, you know, kidnap Penny and hurt her father, and, you know, and all this stuff. And it's not, it's a complete and utter farce. It's a show, but he doesn't know that. And the one thing that's kind of able to help Bolt kind of calm down a little bit is like the squeaky carrot toy that he still has. And she uses that to help calm him down. And then she, you know, she leaves the trailer, and like Bolt stays in the trailer, and she leaves it, and she goes out and she sees her mom and her agent. And Mom is good mom. This mom is a good mom. And her agent is just, think stereotypical agent. And yeah. And, you know, stereotypical Hollywood agent, you know, can spin things, you know, doesn't really care super much about what the talent wants. And one of the things that he does is he's always like, you know, Penny's like, well, I want to take Bolt home for the weekend. I want, you know, it's like he doesn't usually get to do that and everything. And, you know, he doesn't usually get to come home with me and everything, and I just want to spend some time with him. And one of the things that happens is, you know, the agent, his whole answer to this is, well, how about we take that and we put it over here on the wall, and we take it and we put a pin in it, so it's like out of the way, and he doesn't actually have to worry about that. And he does that throughout the entire movie of like, this is a conversation I really don't want to have, so it's like, pin in it, you know, it's just like, it's done. And such. And like Penny just wants to take Bolt home because she loves the dog and everything, and she just wants to take him home so that way he can, you know, get to be a real dog for a weekend. And then we cut to where the director and the rest of the crew are, and they're like watching through like the footage from the episode and everything. They're involved like huge street chases and everything, and like they're watching through all of it, and like there's this little tiny boom mic they got into like a shot, and the director like freaks out about it. And he's like, we can't have a boom mic in the shot. We can't have that happen because the dog thinks that all of this is real. Like, we have this business, this network executive or whatever that's there. And she's like, okay, explain to me why it's a bad thing if the dog doesn't know that this isn't, that the dog knows that this is real, that the dog thinks that this is real. And the director's whole answer is, if the dog believes that it's real, the audience believes that it's real. And I'm just like, okay, I would kind of qualify that as like animal cruelty in all honesty, because you put this dog through stressful situation after stressful situation, and it doesn't know that what it's doing isn't real, that it, like Penny's not actually in danger, like this calico person isn't really a threat. And so it's like we get to see all of that and everything, and like the network, the producer is just like, well, that's fine and well, but like it's predictable because at the end of every episode, the girl's fine. And certain demographics would prefer something a little less happy-go-lucky, a little less predictable. And so, she leaves and she's like, well, if you don't come up with a way of like fixing your ratings and everything, then, all of you will be fired. And she goes off, and the director, I guess, goes off to write another script or whatever because he's a grade A jackass. Um, and they head off, and Penny is still wants to take, Bolt home and everything. But that, the agent's like, no, like they head up to go do more press and everything, for over the weekend. And what ends up happening is, um, the two cats who are like Calico's sidekicks or henchmen or whatever, they show up and they like start teasing Bolt in his trailer. And, they just pretend, it's just like, oh, they tease him and everything. And like, Bolt does the whole, that you'll never get away with this type of thing. And, to the cats and everything, like, they're like teasing him and taunting him and everything. Cause like they know that it's fake. So they're just messing with the dog. And, then they cut to like, I guess it's like the next weekend or whatever, the next week where they're like filming and everything. And at the end of the episode, it's like throughout the whole episode is like Penny and Bolt have to like sneak into Calico's base, and, they're getting all ready and everything. And they, find this information about where her father is and everything. Bolt, like, does heat vision. Like, we get to see a little bit more of, like, the special effects, like, behind the scenes type stuff that they do. Like, a gun that explodes when Bolt looks at it the wrong way. When Bolt looks at it a certain way. Bars that bend. The actors pretending to, be knocked out. Like, if Bolt, like, chops them on the neck. Different things like that. Stunt things for the most part, stunts and special effects, which is, I guess, a very good way of like highlighting special effects crews in movies, which is a very nice thing that they did there, I guess, in regard to that for like movies or TV shows. Because it's like if the special effects ain't working, then it's like you're not going to buy anything that's going on the screen if it's special effects, needed stuff, even if it's just like, guns firing or something that's supposed to blow up, even if it's something simple like that. If it doesn't blow up the right way, or if if the actor doesn't react to it the right way, or if it's not believable, then you don't really have much to go on there for the show. And what ends up and this is coming from someone that watches a ton of comic book movies and other superhero movies and other movies that deal a lot with like special effects and everything. But it's like a way of like a slight tribute to that, I guess. And Penny is then kidnapped by Dr. Calico. And Bolt of course thinks that this is real. And Penny gets kidnapped. And then they have, they put Bolt into like a, just like a dog carrier, and they force him into that, and then they take him back to the trailer and they put him in the trailer. And then Penny comes running back on set going, Bolt, I'm fine, it's fake and everything. And, Penny, Bolt of course is not there, and the agent and the director are like, no, you can't let the dog know that this isn't real. You just have to let the, imagine the dog's reaction when he sees you again, how happy he's going to be. And she's just like, but he's, this is not good for him. He's going to stress the entire time that, however long it's going to be till he sees me again. He thinks that I'm in danger and everything. And, so Penny, obviously we get to see how much Penny cares about Bolt and everything. And there's not necessarily an exact villain quote unquote out and out villain in this movie, because Dr. Calico is obviously an actor. And one of the things that would have been funny that they could have thrown in regards to like Dr. Calico, and they don't do this in the movie at all, but I kind of wish they had done it, is like have a scene where like, like the Dr. Calico character comes out and it's like after they're done filming, and he just like comes out and he like pops out like a contact lens or whatever, and like he, messes up his hair, and like he just, changes from this, whatever the horrible, evil sounding accent that he has, and he just switches into like a very nice, polite accent, and he just like says hi to Penny, and like, it's like, that was so great, you did such a good job, and just like very nice and everything, and just like complete 180 of the character. That was about like the one thing that, and like in regards to like the Hollywood movie TV aspect of it, that I wish they had thrown in, because like you always hear these stories about like the guys that were like these horrible over the top villains and everything that that like in real life, like once the cameras weren't rolling, they were so nice and friendly and everything, and so nice to the kids or the rest of the cast and everything. It's like that's not every single person that's ever been a villain in a movie or a TV show, obviously, because some of them are just like, I'm here for the paycheck and then I'm gonna leave, you know, I do my monologue or whatever, and then I go off. And then there's some of them where it's just like, you know, oh, well, you know, I just, you know, I'm going to be spending time with these people anyway. I should probably at least, you know, be nice to them and get to know them and everything. Like, I think a good example of this was on Doctor Who. They've had, you know, on Doctor Who, of course, it's the Time Lords and Time Lord regeneration and everything. And throughout the course of time, we've had, you know, so many different doctors, but we've also had so many different versions of the Master, which is like, you know, the evil antithesis of the Doctor. You know, there's the Daleks and there's the Cybermen and everything on Doctor Who, but then there's also the Master. And the Master has had so many different actors that have played them over the years, but so many of the actors have just had so much fun coming on set and like getting to work with the different actors or actress in this case that have played the Doctor, or in the case where the Master was a woman. You know, we get so many of these instances where they just love being on set and they're just like chewing away at the scenery and everything, and it's like they have so much fun with the rest of the cast. And I just think that that would have been a cute thing to throw in here with, you know, with like Dr. Calico. That would have just been a fun thing to do there. Just, you know, to show that like him and Penny actually, you know, they get along and everything. You know, or even like show like a press junket tour where it's like the two of them having to like sit and have a conversation and they actually get along fine. But, you know, Penny just, you know, she wants to go and get Bolt and show him that she's okay. And Bolt gets taken back to his trailer and the cats are there and they're going to start taunting him, but Bolt escapes the trailer because he thinks, of course, that Penny is still in mortal danger, and he runs out of the trailer and he's running through the studio area, the building area, and he's just like, where are you, Penny? And he's like looking all over the place, and he ends up getting dropped into like this box of packing peanuts and packed away, and then he gets shipped off. Obviously, they film in Hollywood, and then Bolt somehow gets shipped all the way to New York, however the frick that happened. And he gets shipped to New York, and he gets, you know, he pops out of the box and everything. He kind of got knocked out before he fell in the box, but I'm like, okay, wouldn't he have, I mean, like, I know that the cardboard box probably isn't necessarily airtight, but there's a lot of styrofoam packing peanuts in the box, and they take up a lot of room in the box, and I don't think that Bolt would have necessarily had enough airspace in the box that didn't involve him, like, accidentally swallowing some of the packing peanuts. But, you know, that's just technicalities. And Bolt, you know, he gets out at New York and he starts, you know, running around trying to find Penny and everything. And he's just, like, bewildered because, like, his powers aren't working. He can't, like, he tries to neck chop this guy and it doesn't work. He tries to, you know, headbutt something and it doesn't make a difference. He tries to jump something and he falls. You know, he's just, like, so worried about, like, what's going on. And then he gets his head stuck in this fence. And then these pigeons show up. And I'm gonna do this in the movie because I just find it so funny. Okay, so those of you that are like 90s kids like me, I really freaking hope that you remember the Animaniacs. And you might get where I'm going with this if you've seen Bolt recently enough, but in Bolt, they have this running gag with pigeons. And whenever I see the pigeons in Bolt, I always, or yesterday when I was watching this, I thought of the pigeons, you know, the good feathers from Animaniacs. And, like, Bolt runs into these three pigeons, and, like, they even, I swear to God, I think they even give the pigeons in New York, like, Italian accents, just to, like, you know, like, that you know, like, Godfather-esque type accent type thing that they do. And I don't know if it's, like, an homage to it or not, but I just find it hilarious. And, like, the pigeons are, like, trying to help Bolt, and, like, they, you know, he's like stuck in the fence between the bars, and they're just like, here's what you do. Turn your head, and you pull out. And, like, you know, Bolt tries out, and he escapes, and then he, like, sees these packing peanuts that are still attached to him, and he's, like, freaking out by them. And the pigeon explains, oh, those are styrofoam packing peanuts. And because Bolt's never been introduced to these things before, he thinks that there's something that messes with his powers. So he thinks that he doesn't have his powers whenever the styrofoam is touching him. And, like, he tells the birds, he's like, okay, I have to go and find my human Penny, my person. I need to find her. She's in danger from the green-eyed man. And Bolt and the pigeons are just like, I have seen you somewhere before. And, like, the irony of it is like, right next to them appears this bus that has, like, the Bolt, you know, logos and everything on it. And, like, the pigeons aren't paying attention to that, and Bolt doesn't see it either. And that's one of the funny running gags in the movie, is like all of this advertising stuff that's, you know, for the Bolt show and everything, because it's like a big hit. Bolt doesn't see any of it for a while. He just like does not see these billboards and signs and buses and everything that have his face all over them. Him and Penny's faces all over them. And he's like, well, I need to find someone that works for the Green-Eyed Man, and then I can get my information out of them. And the pigeons are like, well, what would that be? And he's like, I need to find a cat. And they're like, I think we have a cat. And then we're introduced to this character named Mittens, who is this very sassy cat that is like this alley cat, and she rules over like the pigeons of New York, or like a certain amount of the pigeons of New York. And like, you know, they're supposed to, you know, bring her food, you know, a certain amount of their food for the week they bring to her. And then she, you know, she'll eat that and everything. And she does this routine where she tells them that, you know, she pretends that she has claws. We find out later on that she's a declawed cat, but she pretends that she has claws. And of course the pigeons are scared of her because of the claws. And she plays it up like, you know, if I get too hungry, you know, the stomach has a direct line to the claws. I have no say in the matter. And if the stomach gets too hungry, then the claws will come out. And she, like, you know, threatens the pigeons and everything to, like, bring her food. And, you know, so much of their food and everything. And, you know, then she gets pinned by Bolt, and he's like, tell me where Penny is and everything. And she's just like, I have no idea what the frick you're talking about. And the pigeons are like just laughing at this, because it's like she's caused them so many problems and kind of harassed them for a while, that now they're just like, nah, this is funny, we'll watch this. And then Bolt, like, because, you know, Mittens is not, you know, cooperating with him, he takes her and he like hangs her over the side of a bridge, over like a interstate or freeway type thing. And he's like, you know, holding on to her. And it's like, we get these badass lines, but it's like, now tell me where Penny is or I'll drop you off the bridge, Mittens. And it's just adorable to watch that. But like, he's, you know, he's getting ready to drop her off the bridge, and the pigeons are like, did this just get too dark? And they're like, nah. And you know, she's just like, Mittens just like, she just like agrees to play along, and she's like, she like sees his collar, and on his collar is like, of course, you know, Bolt, and then like his, you know, like Hollywood, California is what it says, or like whatever the, you know, Riverdale, California, or whatever the case was, Riverside, whatever it is that they had written on the tag that indicates Hollywood. And for some reason, apparently Mittens can read. And you know, she's like, I can tell you how to find Penny. And like, she gathers up, you know, like, at this point, Bolt is like tied. Somehow he got like a leash on him, because like someone saw him and they tried to put a leash on him, and then he ran off. And he's like, take the leash, and he's like tied it around Mittens. I'm like, okay, either he forced her to tie the leash around herself, or he tied it around her. Admittedly, Bolt has probably been taught how to do different things like that in regards to like the set type of stuff. Like they maybe had like Penny teach him like how to tie a knot or something for like stuff for the set. But it's also a Disney movie, and it's, you know, a talking animal movie and everything. So you got to, you know, take it with what you can, with how much, you know, grain of salt and everything. And she, you know, shows him this map that is like for this restaurant that's called like Waffle World. And it's like this map of like all the waffle worlds all across the country. And she's like, we're here. And she points at New York, but the green lady with the torch. And Penny is all the way over here. And she points at the one that's like in Hollywood. And that's all you got to do, is you got to follow this map, and then you'll get to Penny. And Bolt is like, okay, well then you're coming with me as like, I guess, a guide / hostage type thing. And she's like, but I that wasn't our deal. And he's like, I don't care, you're still coming with me. And they end up, you know, hitching a ride on this, they hitch a ride on like a U-Haul trailer. And what ends up happening is Bolt at one point, like, he's saying like, I have this super, you know, I have like heat vision, and he's trying to like stare at the lock to get it to, or stare at something to get the lock to melt. And Mittens is just like, okay, I have a number of concerns about this. And because at this point in time, Bolt still thinks that he is like this experiment dog that has like all of these powers and everything. And they end up getting in like this back of this moving van, this U-Haul van, and they get, you know, sent down the road for a while. And while they're in the van and everything, Mittens, you know, Bolt's just like sitting and waiting for when they get out of the van. And Mittens is like trying to find like something that she can like hit Bolt over the head with, so that way she can like, you know, unclip him or untie herself, one of the two, so she can escape. and she like finds this baseball bat and she's ready to like hit Bolt over the head with it. And then like she just like falls back, and that causes like this box of like packing peanuts to fall on Bolt, and he freaks out, and he he opens the back of the van, like the latch, and he jumps out, and like Mittens gets pulled out with him and everything. So they get like rolled down this hill at like 80 miles an hour jumping out of this van. And when they get down, Bolt like looks at his paws and he's like, what's this red stuff? Because like he's never really like stunts and everything. The stunts are timed and everything to make it sure that Bolt doesn't get hurt. And so he's never really been hurt before. And he ends up, she's like, that's blood. And he goes like, do I need it? And she's like, yes, you need it. And, so she's like, does this explanation. And he's like, that styrofoam must have weakened me. And she's just like, that is not the way that this works. And then he like, his stomach starts growling. So he's never really experienced hunger before. And because he's always had like, food at the pet store or food with Penny. And he's never really experienced like hunger before. And she's like, you're hungry. And he's like, well, then tell me the antidote, because he thinks that she like poisoned him or something. And like they end up being near this trailer park, and they're like, and she's like, okay, I think I can work with this. And she's like, okay, so we're gonna go down there, and you're gonna go by the doors of the trailers, and you're just gonna do the dog face. And he's like, what's the dog face? And she's like, you don't know what the dog face is? And he's like, no. And this is where I think it slightly transitions into the cat and the dog bit from Animaniacs again, because like we had the pigeons and then we have these, and I don't remember the cat's name in that, but I loved her, the cat and the dog that were the duo in Animaniacs. And like she's just like, okay, so here's what you do. You have like she teaches them how to do the look. The sad puppy eyes and everything. And she takes him in front of, like, she tells him, now go in front of that trailer and like bark, and then do the sad face when they, open the door. And it works, and they get food, and like they turn this into like this little con act, and they keep getting food and everything, and they're like nice and full and happy and everything. And like she tries at one point, she gets like a pan thrown at her and such. Like, nobody likes this cat. And then they end up coming across this other van, and in the RV, there's all these like hamsters and such, and one of them is like a TV obsessed hamster, and he's like, he wanders over to the window when he sees them, and he recognizes Bolt because he's watched like Bolt all the way through and everything, and he recognizes Bolt, and he makes his way out of the trailer through like the RV through like the window. And he's like, you're Bolt, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I've seen everything that you've ever done. And Bolt's just like he thinks it is because like the hamster's name is Rhino, and he explains it to them. And he's like, Bolt's like, well, how are you able to like, watch me all this time and everything? And he's like, I'm so, perceptive for when anybody's watching me. And, he thinks that like it means that Rhino is like this extremely covert and very easy, very good at hiding, operative and everything. Not that he's like this hamster that's been watching him on TV for the past however many years since Bolt became a TV show. And Mittens and Bolt end up Mittens and Bolt are there, and Rhino decides to go with them to help them get to the next area, on the rest stop and everything, for like the next area to go to, the next, Waffle World, to get them, closer to California and everything. And Rhino goes with them. And they get out at this, or Rhino's like, okay, I know a way of where we can go. And that way ends up involving them trying to, train hop, which does not end well, but they try to swing down on the train, and like Rhino mentions, I was like, I've watched all of your, your magic pictures, and this clues Mittens into Bolt is a TV character. Bolt thinks that he's in a TV show, and that all of this is real, and that Penny is actually in danger, and that he has these powers. And she tries to stop him, and it doesn't work, and they basically end up getting thrown off the train. at one point, or like they take the train to like the next stop after they had like this whole harrowing ordeal of like almost falling off the train and such. And then they end up in like this other like town or neighborhood or whatever. And what Mittens does is she's like tied Bolt's leash to like a tree, so like they're kind of stuck on the train. Like she's trying to explain to Bolt that this is not real. You are not. You do not have these powers. You are a TV character. And they end up getting grabbed. Mittens and Bolt end up getting grabbed by animal control. Rhino went off to go find a ladder to try to get Mittens out of the tree, and then he still sees them. And I'm like, this is a very resourceful hamster. And at the meantime, we keep cutting back and forth to like Hollywood at this point in time, where we're with Penny, and she's just so distraught over Bolt's disappearance and everything. And her mom is, of course, trying to comfort her. And her agent is trying to make it, it's like, oh, well, we'll turn this into something, it could be on the Tonight Show, and like, blah, 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 blah. Which doesn't really work that well. And like, she's just like, I just want my dog back. She doesn't want to go on a show. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants to get Bolt back. And, then we cut back to, Bolt and the others and everything. And Bolt and Mittens are, being taken to the shelter, animal control, whatever you want to call it. And she ends up getting, I just find this funny. Rhino like helps like get Bolt out because he's able to like undo this latch, and Bolt had been like hitting his head against the door to get himself out of the cage that he was in on the animal control truck. And he escapes, and then he thinks that he's the one that did it, and then Rhino says, well, I flipped that latch to help you get out. And Bolt's just like, oh. And then like this is where Bolt starts to have this realization that, oh, this isn't real. I don't actually have these powers. Mittens was right. And like we see this realization going on in his head, and he's just like, I'm just a normal dog. None of that happened was real. And he's, so they're just like, and he's like, and then like he's like, but we still have to go and try to save Mittens because she doesn't deserve to be in the, she doesn't deserve to be in the shelter at the, Humane Society, Animal Control, whatever you want to refer to it as. She doesn't deserve to be there. And just, PSA, if you have the ability to, if you're going to get a dog or a cat or a pet, go and get one from the Humane Society or the animal shelter or whatever, because just those are animals that deserve a home. Just go there. If you're going to be adopting an animal. That's what we did with Rainy, and as annoying as he is, it has seemed to have gone fairly well so far, even though he's escaped multiple times. And then that involves us running around the neighborhood trying to find him. But, so Rhino basically gives Bolt this, motivational speech. And he's like, well, you have to do this because, if you don't and everything, then, it just makes it everything looks impossible and everything. And like, it's, it's like you're an inspiration to pets and everything. And it's like, it's basically the quote that I use at the end of the video, because it was like the closest thing that I could find to a really good quote from this that wasn't like the pretentious director. And, what ends up happening is, they end up getting, they get into the shelter, into the animal control, and they're able to, they cause a distraction and everything. And like, Bolt is kind of using some of the stuff that he knows from the show, but he's also just like, you can't just barge in. So he like comes up with something like he sends Rhino into like the dog area, so that way he can then get into the cat area to get Mittens. And he sends Rhino into the dog area in like his, his hamster ball, because that's what he's been in the entire time. Like all the dogs are like ball, 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 and like barking and everything. And the one of the guys goes in to look at the, go see where the dogs are barking, and Bolt goes in and he gets Mittens out of the cage and the cat section, and then they go and then they meet back up with the Rhino, and they are able to escape. And what ends up happening is, we cut back to, Penny and everything. and they're getting ready to put up these, lost dog posters of Bolt and everything. And Penny's agent comes in saying that he found Bolt, and Penny's excited, and then they bring in this, dog that looks exactly like Bolt, but he's not Bolt. But he's like a trained acting dog that looks just like Bolt. And she's like, no, this isn't Bolt. This isn't right. And like she's like refusing to want to work with the new dog, after her agent tells her, a stupid story about like a baseball glove and a bicycle, and it was just like this stupid story and everything. And then the network executive comes in, and she's like, listen, if you don't get filming again, all of these people are going to lose their jobs. And so Penny kind of relents, because it's like she's the one that the show, holds the weight of the show on her and Bolt. And if they don't get back into production, then yeah, they're going to lose their jobs. And, she doesn't want that to happen to the crew and everything, because like she likes the crew, I'm assuming. And what ends up happening is, so she stops the photocopier, and they go, and they're going to get ready to start, filming again. After, and then, we cut back to, Mittens and Bolt and such, and Rhino, and after they escape the animal shelter, they end up on this truck, this kind of not a U-Haul truck, but it's a semi truck that is hauling like this house type thing. It's like half of the house, so it's like a mobile home type thing, and they're hauling that, and they end up inside of that, and like Bolt and Mittens kind of just have like this conversation, and they fix kind of the little bit of a friendship that they've been developing, and like it's kind of getting better now. And he's like, I'm sorry that I acted the way that I did and everything, and like I understand now that I don't have all of these powers and everything, and that I don't have, I can't do this stuff. I don't have heat vision. I don't have a super bark. I don't have, indestructible skin. I'm just a dog. And one of the other things that hit home is that like he still has like the bolt mark on his side, and whenever he touches it now, because it keeps getting dirty or wet or so, the makeup or the dye keeps coming out of it. And he so he's starting to realize that. And Mittens and Rhino and him, Mittens kind of starts showing him how, she explains it, well, cats have a dog complex. We want to be dogs because you guys, get everything. And it's not fair that, cats don't get to enjoy the same types of, luxuries and affection that dogs have. And like with all the studies that have come out in the past several years about like cats really don't care about you, your cat doesn't care about you. Overall, I would say some cats do care about their owners quite a bit, but then in other cases, it's just like, you're the person that feeds me and cleans out my poop, so I'm just gonna go over there now and sleep on your bed for however many hours, and then be very loud in the middle of the night, because reasons. Dog. And what ends up happening is she like starts showing him like how to be a dog. He's like, well, can you teach me how to be a dog? And she's like, sure. And so it's like, well, you drink out of the toilet bowl. And he's like, what? And then like, and this is, he's just like disgusted by that. And then she goes like, and then, she takes him in the kitchen and was like, and she explains to him the rule of like, for like, if any food falls on the ground, it goes to the hound. So any food that falls on the ground in the kitchen is for Bolt to eat. And then she's like, and then, like there's like this fireplace in this house. Nothing in the house is actually working. But, it's just like this, house that's being transported somewhere. And like they're still following the map to get to Hollywood, because Bolt still wants to get back to Penny because she's his person. And what ends up happening is, she like, this is where we get the whole, a little bit of the explanation of, Mittens explains, well, I did my time in a place like this at some point. She'd been a pet at one point, but I left as soon as I could. And, curling up in front of the fireplace is always such a nice thing to do. And then they get to the point where Bolt ends up, she's like, you want to see what something else dogs really like to do? Sure. And they open this window that's, this house going down the interstate at like however many miles an hour. She's like, put your head out the window. He's like, Okay, and he puts his head out the window. And I wanted to get a video of Rainy doing this. But trying to get a video of Rainy with his head out the window while I'm driving is not a safe thing to do. But it's just like, it's like the dog with the head out the window going, ah, it's just like so happy and everything. Like Bolt loves it. And then we just get like this huge montage of, Mittens, showing him how to do other things, and helping him understand fetch and like all this other stuff, and like just we get this huge montage of like all of them just like going across the country and everything, like this great song in the background. It's not the movie is not a musical by any means because there's not really any of the characters singing, and there's really only I think like 3 songs throughout the whole movie, and I'll go over them at the end. But like, so Bolt and Mittens and Rhino are just having fun and traveling and everything. Rhino at this kind of point in time still kind of thinks that, what happens on the show is real. So he still has all of this confidence in, all this confidence in Bolt to have his powers and everything. But like Bolt's just having so much fun getting to be a regular dog and interacting with other dogs and everything. And then they end up in Las Vegas. And while they're in Las Vegas, it's like they just, find like this hall of like, because like all of the, behind all the buffets and everything, there's like all of these trash cans that are full of food that then the animals can go after. And so they're just like, doing that. And then like Mittens, she wakes Bolt up in the morning. She's like, come on, I have a surprise for you. And she shows him that she made like these like little houses for them to stay in. They're like cardboard boxes and everything. There's even a place for, Rhino to sleep. And she's like, I made these for us so that way we can live here now. And, we've got like all this great hall of food we can always go and eat and everything. And then we've got these nice places we can come and sleep. And Bolt's like, that's very nice, but I have to get back to Penny because she's my person. And Mittens tries to convince Bolt that Penny doesn't really love you. It's all an act, and she takes him and she shows him this billboard. And, it's like him and Penny and Dr. Calico and like all this like action looking stuff. And Bolt's like, I know, but Penny is my person. Everything else may have been fake, but she loves me and I love her. And I'm her dog and she's my person. And, as much as I love Rainy, I don't see him having this type of affection for me. As much as I love him, I don't. Bear, maybe, might have, but Rainy wouldn't. Rainy would not have this type of affection for me, or it'd just be like he'd be willing to go to all of these lengths just to get back to me. I don't think so. Or the Homeward Bound analogy in regards to that, if you want to stick with another movie about talking animals, that'll pull at your heartstrings. And Bolt and Mittens have this huge fight, and Mittens just basically lets loose with the fact of like, it's like, it's not real. It's just going to turn this thing where it's like you get adopted by this family, and then they leave, and they don't even take you with you, and they leave their declawed cat alone to fend for herself. And this is where we get the explanation as to Mittens is declawed. She never had claws throughout the whole story. She couldn't have threatened the pigeons anyway, even if she did have claws. I got the dog to come in. We'll see how long that lasts. We're almost finished. Come on, you can stay in here while I finish the video. He's like, I have to rub my eyes, Mom. Come on, up on the bed. Up. Come on, up on the bed. Up, 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 up. That is not up, that is side. Up. He's like, but there's stuff on the bed, Mom. Yeah, I know there's stuff on the bed, silly. I love you. When I got back from my trip a couple of weeks ago, where I went on the trip around Nebraska, I missed him a lot. I got home. He was happy to see me, but not really all that much happier to see me than normal, like when I come home from work. I love you. I love you. Yes, I do. You're so cute, Bubba. My baby. You're so cute. And then I'm going to sneeze on you. Thank you, dog. Okay. up. He's like, but there's stuff all over the bed. How am I supposed to get up there, Mommy? Okay, fine. Lay down. Do your little spinny thingy and lay down. I have to record some more. I'm almost done. You can stay in here until the video's finished. Okay, so where was I? Oh, yes. Are you gonna lay down or not? I love you. You're so fluffy and cute. Yes, you is. See, I was gonna get the dog in the video beyond pictures. Here we go. Here's my baby. But you know what ends up happening is, of course, you know, they end up having this big fight, and of course, Mittens wants to stay in Vegas because she can get all this food and everything. And it's this great place for her to be, and you know, Bolt wants to get back to Penny. And Bolt leaves and he heads off and he goes and he works on trying to get his way back to Penny. And Rhino basically points out to Mittens that it's like, you can't just abandon your friend. And, you know, because she's like, he had to go fight the green-eyed man on his own. And Rhino's just like, no, you can't do that and everything. And, like, he goes off and, like, Mittens heads off with him. And the dog did lay down. And what ends up happening is, you know, they get back to Hollywood. Bolt gets back to Hollywood. And he makes his way, well, first he ends up interacting with these pigeons that are very much Hollywood pigeons, that are like the typical, you know, screenwriter wannabes and everything. And, you know, they just try to like, okay, we have this idea for you, because like they recognize him. It's like, we have this idea for you. Aliens. And then, you know, it's just like, aliens are this idea. And he's like, how about this? You get me to the studio where Penny is, and then I will help, you know, I will see what I can do for you. And like, okay, we're good. And like, they head off and they start taking him to the studio. And, you know, they're trying to like do him the pitch on the way there for like how the alien thing works. And, you know, they get to the studio. And the other thing that is like basically blatantly Animaniacs reference is they have a water tower there. I don't know if this is supposed to be like just a joke on like Warner Brothers itself or whatever from a Disney movie, but they have this, you know, they have a water tower there and it has Bolt and Penny on the front of it. So again, I just put that as like an Animaniacs thing because of course, you know, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot lived in the Warner Brothers water tower. I know they're completely different. Well, they're not completely different companies, but they're different companies and everything, and they, you know, they're separate and everything, but still, Spielberg has worked for both. And what ends up happening is, you know, they get to the studio and, you know, Bolt gets into the studio and he finds his way to the trailer and everything. And, you know, he gets into the trailer and he's like looking for Penny and like she's not in the trailer. So, you know, he sees his squeak toy. And then he makes his way out of the trailer because he hears Penny shouting for him. And he, you know, he's trying to find where she is. And they're on the soundstage practice, you know, on the soundstage. And he gets to where he can see her. And she's just like, Bolt, I'm so glad that I found you. I'm so glad that you found me. I've missed you so much. And one of the things that Penny would always say to Bolt is, you're my good boy. Which I tell Rainey a lot because sometimes he's a good boy. Aren't you? He's just like, I'm going to lay here on the floor because lay and floor. And they end up getting, you know, Bolt is like watching Penny and he's like just about to run toward her. And then the fake Bolt runs in and like, you know, Penny's like, you're my good boy to the fake Bolt. And Bolt is just heartbroken. He's just so sad that like, oh, that wasn't real. Everything about that was fake. And he thinks that what Minton said was real. Like, Penny never cared about him. It was all just for the show. And he drops his carrot and he goes off, his squeak carrot, and he runs off. And then we see Penny, and, you know, it's like they do this cut, you know, rehearsal finished, let's head to the soundstage. And she's just like, you know, you know, she's nice to the, you know, to the fake Bolt, but he's not her dog. And she then, she sees her mom and she's like, I just miss him so much. And like Mittens is actually watching this because her and Rhino have made their way to the studios. Rhino saw one of the like extras that's dressed up as like one of like Calico's like henchmen, and he goes and he's like trying to like threaten him. And he's like, it's like, I will rule you. And he's just like, I will rip out your liver and your spleen, and I will, blah 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 blah. And of course, it's just like this hamster going squeaking away at the extra, and he's like, oh, it's so cute, which is just funny. And Mittens sees the way that Penny it was like she realized that okay, Penny was faking that for the other Bolt, for the fake Bolt, but she honestly really does miss Bolt, and Mittens goes after Bolt, and Mittens goes after Bolt, and she tries to explain to him. I was like, no, I was wrong. Penny does care about you. She is your person, and you are her dog. And what ends up happening is, they're getting set up for like this big kind of stunt type thing that Penny has to do and such. And, she's like tied up in the rafters over this like, I guess evil altar looking place with fire everywhere, because that's of course extremely safe. And they bring in the fake Bolt, and, they're filming and everything, and they bring the fake Bolt, and the fake Bolt freaks out, and it runs off, and it knocks over some of the things that are doing the fire effects. And this just causes everything in the scene, in the studio at this point in time, they just start catching on fire, and they're all trying to escape. And we have horrible management here, because apparently they don't have fire extinguishers at the ready for all of this fire effects and everything that they have going on. And they don't have this like easy way to get Penny down from where she's like, tied up and like on this like harness and everything in the rafters, being hung from the rafters. And so she ends up, she does get out. She, gets out of the harness, and she drops down, and because they have like this giant, it's like this inflatable cushion thing that she can land on, so that way she's safe if she has to jump down. And she jumps down, and she's trying to get out, but like everything's on fire all around her. And out at the edge of the studio, Bolt and Mittens were talking, and he's just like, no, just listen. And like he hears Penny shouting, and he runs in, and like him and Mittens are running toward where the studio is on fire, where the sound stage is on fire. And like there's fire trucks and ambulances coming in and everything, and like actors and actresses and like crew and everything all over the place. Like Penny's mom is trying to figure out where she is, and they're just Bolt is just like hell bent on, of course, getting to Penny. And what ends up happening is he gets to, he's able to get inside the building, and he's like listening all around trying to find Penny, and like Penny's shouting for help and for Bolt, and like Bolt gets to where she is, and we get this moment where they're happily reunited for a moment. It's like Penny's been coughing because like there's smoke inhalation going on, obviously, with all of the smoke that's around her, and she's just like so happy to see Bolt. And then like one of the helicopters that they use for like Calico's helicopters like got caught on fire and was gonna fall and hit them, and they escaped that. And she grabs this rope that she gives to Bolt, that allows him to kind of like help steer her through the debris, because Bolt can run faster than she can, and he can like see where the debris is and like kind of weave her around the debris so she doesn't get hurt. And they get to nearly the edge of the soundstage, and and Bolt is, Penny's got a lot of smoke inhalation at this point in time. And, they're getting, Bolt gets her through to where there's this air vent, and he's like, okay, if I can get her through the air vent, we can get out. And he rips off the air vent, and he's, he like crawls in, and he's like trying to drag Penny in, but she won't fit into the air vent. And he's like, and he crawls back out, and she's just like, you're my good boy, and you go get outside and everything. And he's just like, I can't, he's just like, he's not leaving her again. It's that whole moment of, I am not leaving you again. I already lost you once. I already nearly lost you once. I am not going to do that again. And what ends up happening is, he snuggles under her arm, and then he sees the vent again, and he's like, I know what to do. And he goes over to the vent, and he does his, it's super bark to a degree, because he's, barking into the vent so that way the sound will carry out into the other areas, because he's like figured out that, oh, if you do noise into the vent, it carries, because he saw Rhino do the same thing when they were inside of the house. And Bolt is like barking into the vent. I'm like, he's got a fair amount of smoke inhalation at this point in time too, but he doesn't have as much as Penny does. So he's like, barking into the vent. And on the outside of the vent, like everybody outside of the, like on the outside of the sound stage and everything, like there was like all the firefighters. He's like, everybody quiet down. And like they hear the barking coming from the vent, and Rhino and Mittens are there, and like they were watching all of this, and like they kind of helped Bolt to get inside the sound stage. And Bolt or Rhino is just like, it's the super bark. And it's a real super bark because he's using it to actually be a real hero to save Penny. And it has more effect than like that huge over the top version of it that they had at the beginning of the movie. And what ends up happening is, the firefighters are able to get, I'm assuming they like break down part of the wall to get to where Penny and Bolt are, and they get them out, and they get Penny on like the stretcher, and like they get her hooked up to like the oxygen machine and everything, so she can try to get her lungs filled with oxygen instead of smoke. And Penny kind of like groggily kind of opens her eyes, and she's like, sees everything around her, and she sees her mom. And, her mom is extremely happy, of course, that she's fine. It's like, just Penny's mom is good Disney mom. And what ends up happening is, she sees Bolt is also being carried by one of the other firemen, and they get Penny into the, ambulance to take her to the hospital because, she's got a lot of smoke inhalation, and they put Bolt on the stretcher with her once she's inside of the ambulance and such, so she has her dog with her. And, like, we cut to underneath the stretcher, and, like, Mittens and Rhino have, like, grabbed onto the bottom of the stretcher to stay with the Bolt and everything. Because, like, in all this chaos, nobody's gonna notice a cat and a hamster getting inside of an ambulance. And the agent shows up, and he's just, like, he's like, he's like, we can turn the, he's like, tries to do the sympathy thing with the mom, and he's like, and I understand that you're going through this, but we can turn this into a great headline and a great promotion thing and blah, 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 blah. And the mom just has gotten so freaking fed up with this guy. She literally throws him out of the ambulance, which I love. It's just like, nope, out of the ambulance you go. And like his phone falls to the ground and smashes. And he tries to do the whole, you just think about that. Like, he tries to do the whole put a pin in and thing. She just like slams the door on him, and then she goes like, we quit. And they, her and Penny drive off in the ambulance. And then we do this like cut scene, and we cut to this like girl in a hospital bed with like, bandages around her face, and like there are doctors, and, it's like, they're like, removing the, the bandages from her face. And I was like, well, we had to do entire face reconstruction surgery and everything. It's not exactly how you used to look and everything, but, blah, 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 blah. But you're fine. And, they remove it, and it looks like a girl that looks very similar to Penny with, the red hair and the similar haircut and the green eyes, but it's a different actress playing her, since the real Penny quit and left. And, then they have like, the fake Dr. Dr. Calico is there, and he tries to like attack Penny, and then, the fake Bolt shows up and, rescues her. And then like, they run off and escape to show that, and then like an alien spaceship shows up and like takes them away. So it's like, apparently the pigeons did get their, their pitch in, and, they got their pitch in, and, they end up getting, and like, then it cuts to like, it's Rhino sitting on the couch watching this new version of it. And he's just like, that just did not, no, that was just not a good idea. That was totally unrealistic. And then they see, he's sitting on this couch, and then we see Mittens and Bolt are there as well. And like Mittens now has a collar. And I'm assuming they found some way of telling them, telling, Penny and her mom what Mittens' name was, or whatever the case was. Or maybe Penny was very easily able to, was like, oh, her name's Mittens, and everything, because like she has like little white paws and everything. And they end up getting, it reveals that, oh, it's like the three of them are together, and, Penny adopted the hamster. By technicality, Penny straight up stole Rhino. Admittedly, Rhino kind of ran away, quote unquote, from like the old lady in the trailer park, at the RV park. But still, Penny technically, quote unquote, stole Rhino. And what ends up happening is, they end up getting, it's like they were adopted by Penny and her mom, and like they moved away from they moved away and everything. Like Penny is like so happy, and she has the three animals, and she does another picture of them on the Polaroid, and her mom's very happy, and they head off, and Penny and Bolt go outside, and they start playing and everything and running around, and like they obviously bought this farm, or this like little acreage and everything with the money that they had from Penny's show. And the pigeons in this area, they don't know who Bolt is, and it's just like, nope, I've never seen him before in my life. And like that's just shows like they're in a good place because Bolt's not going to get harassed and everything anymore. And like Bolt doesn't have his mark on his side anymore. Dog. Bolt doesn't have the mark on his side anymore because they cleaned it off, and they show it slowly getting washed away more and more throughout the course of like the montage that they do, and like it's just like them having fun and enjoying their new life, and Bolt just gets to be a real dog. And then of course they go through the credits, and like their credits show Penny and Bolt and Mittens and Rhino just having fun and everything. For the cast of this movie, we have John Travolta as Bolt. So just insert anything else John Travolta has been in. Grease, Welcome Back, Kotter, if you want to go for a TV series. I found out recently that he was in the running to be, Johnny Castle on Dirty Dancing, which that would have still been a very interesting movie, and they did that, I think. He's of course in Pulp Fiction and so many of these other movies, of course, that John Travolta has been in. Hey, come back here. I'm not done. You can stay here for another minute. Come here. Come here. Come here. You can help me finish this. Hi. He's a baby. He's a baby. He's my baby, and I love him. Yes, we do. I love you. Maybe. Okay, I'll put you down. I have his head in my lap. He's like, but mommy, why are you do this? Hi, come here. Okay, fine, abandon me. He's like, I'm not abandoning you. I'm going to a different room. And we have Susie Essman as Mittens. I'm sure I've seen her in something else before, but I don't remember what. We have Mark Walton as Rhino. He's been in other Disney movies as probably like side characters, but I think he's also been like part of the production in regards to like art and stuff like that. So he might be like someone that works for Disney because occasionally Disney will bring in some of their various staff or producers or artists or so, and they will come in and like they can do like these bit parts in it. And then of course we had Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Calico. We have Miley Cyrus as Penny, and who is of course Hannah Montana, and insert other stuff. And then we have Gretel Isle as Penny's mom. Gretel Isle is just like this character actress that has done so many different animated characters. And then for the soundtrack, we have "I Thought I Lost You," which is the end credit end credit song that is sung by John Travolta and Miley Cyrus. We have "Barking at the Moon," sung by Jenny Lewis, and then we have "Home at Last," sung by Jenny Lewis. "Home at Last" is, I think, the song that they used for like the montage sequence from when like Bolt and Mittens and Rhino were like traveling across the country to go back to LA. There is like a film short that they did with this. It's like Rhino, and I think it's like him having like a daydream about having to fight Dr. Calico. And I think at this point in time, he's been explained to that what happens on the TV on these shows is not real. It's not real. Bolt doesn't really have powers. He never did. Penny was an actress, but she did love Bolt. And it's never specifically stated whether or not Penny is her actual name or if that's just her character's name. But I'm just led to believe that they just stuck with that being her actual name. Just because, it's like Bolt having to have two different names for her and everything. That doesn't really work that well. It's revealed at the end, oh, her name was never actually Penny to begin with. It was like something else. It's like, nah, just make her name Penny. It's fine. But like, Rhino has like this fever dream, daydream, whatever thing about like him having to go and like take down Dr. Calico, which is just like, just like gives him a reason to let Rhino look awesome. There haven't been any Bolt sequels as far as I'm aware of. They haven't done anything else with Bolt. It was considered, given the time frame that it came out, because the next movie that I'm going to be talking about is going to be the Frog Princess. Is Disney's The Frog Princess, which is kind of like this next fairy tale type movie that they did, of course, and where they brought back, you know, another new princess, which is of course where we get Tiana and such. But what ends up happening is, you know, Bolt is kind of revered as one of these movies that is kind of part of like the second wave of like the Disney revival, because like the Great Mouse Detective was kind of revered as part of this, you know, this wave of part of the Disney revival that brought us like Little Mermaid and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Lion King. And then Bolt is kind of this one that brought about this, you know, started to bring about this Disney revival of, you know, we get, you know, this is where we get, you know, the Frog Princess, and then that leads into like Tangled and into the Frozen movies, of course, and to Wreck-It Ralph and such. So, and then, you know, later on into, you know, Raya and the Last Dragon and everything. So it's like it's kind of worked its way into that. Like, you know, they kind of build on top of that and get better, you know, stories that aren't just, you know, just gags held together, but also, you know, there's heart in the movies, which is also, you know, in my opinion, some of the best Disney movies are the ones that have heart in them. It's like there's something in them that makes you connect to them. Like even with the Meet the Robinsons, and I love Meet the Robinsons. You know, I mentioned this. Meet the Robinsons is about finding family. It's about finding your real family. Whether or not you're related by blood is kind of irrelevant in those cases. And that also applies to stuff like when it comes to like different anime that I watch as well, like with Sailor Moon and such. It is like, you know, the scouts find each other and they are a family for each other. With One Piece, it's, you know, none of the Straw Hats, as far as we are aware, are related by blood, but they're as strong and as closely bonded as a family can be, even if they don't always get along with each other. And, you know, Bolt kind of has that same mentality of Bolt is Penny's human. Penny is Bolt's human regardless of anything else that happens. And he would do anything to get back to her. And then Mittens gets to see this, that it's not all humans that are the way that her humans had been when she had been, you know, their pet. So that's what we have. I gotta go put all the stuffed animals away, and put them back on the this plushie tree. In regards to that, in regards to the plushie tree, just you know, in regards to that, it's just like you just put the plushies in like the different holes that the branches make. There's no zip ties required. There's no suction cups or ties or anything like that required. It's just, you know, just like put them in the holes of the branches. So that's what I have for the video. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And if you have, like, you know, dogs in your life or even pets in your life that you adore just as much as, like, you know, Penny adores, you know, Bolt, just, you know, put that in the comments below, how much you care about your dog or your pets or whatever. Doesn't matter if it's a cat or a dog or a lizard or, you know, a bird, or insert whatever other type of animal you have as a pet. Or if you're a Disney fan, if you like Phineas and Ferb, Perry the Platypus. You know, so that's what we have. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. They need a hero, Bolt. Someone who, no matter what the odds, will do what's right. They need a hero to tell them that sometimes the impossible can be possible if you're awesome.